our email list has grown from 8,000 to we just crossed the 50,000 email subscriber. For the year 2022, we did like 1.1 something million in total revenue.
Chris, I'd like to get a fresh sense of how your business works. What problem do you help people solve?
We help realtors get consistent clients.
Okay. And what's the
or
product?
Clients consistently, depending on how you want to word it, but yeah.
And what's the product?
So our flagship product is called Pro Tools. It is a software backend. It is also comes with a custom marketing plan and unlimited coaching. So I think that most people looking from the outside would see a software business, but I consider us just a coaching business through and through.
And what do people pay? Like when they come to the website, what do they see? Meaning, how do they see the product framed, and then what do they pay to get started?
Yeah, so Pro Tools is a fairly low ticket product. It's either $19.99 for the year, or we also have quarterly and monthly options. So $579 a quarter or $229 a month. And it's just a recurring subscription thing.
Mm-hmm. And for that, what do they get? What are the practical deliverables
Yeah, so that's what I just bumbled just a second ago. So essentially the practical deliverables are a custom marketing plan where we put together basically 14 days worth of work to help them get to the goal of consistent clients, right? And then they get all the back-end software that they need to execute the ideas, right? So I've found, just experienced this in my own life, nothing sucks worse than when you learn a cool new idea from a coach, but then you've got to go like buy this app or this website or do this thing in order to and there's too much friction. And so we give them all the back-end software that they need in order to go and execute the marketing idea that we're teaching them, or the series of marketing ideas. And then we also give them unlimited one-to-one coaching. So they can either text us, chat with us, live, book a call with us from a licensed active realtor that actually uses Pro Tools, that works on our team as a marketing coach, and can basically help them when they struggle.
That's really cool. That's a really good offer. Who's your ideal client for that?
So I like to think of them as a realtor who's currently earning somewhere between 50 and 100K, who just like desperately wants to break through that plateau and get to the next, 150K, 250K in GCI. What GCI is gross commission income. So realtors obviously work on commission of total volume sold. And, just like everybody else, 6 figures is kind of like that first goal that people want to get to. We're kind of like on the edge where we want to help some people get to 100K, but there's a lot of people that we just want to get them to consistently doing 250K and net commissions every year. So
I love the descriptor qualifier of somebody that desperately wants to get there, because there's a vast difference in someone who's like, that'd be fun, and someone who's literally actively searching, trying, efforting to get there. That's a really good difference.
It's interesting because real estate is one of those things that, like, when you're at a cookout with your family and you're like catching up with old family members, they're like, oh, I'm thinking about getting into real estate. Right. And it's obvious that it's nothing more than like a hobbyist idea at that point. But we believe, this is kind of like one of our underlying beliefs here at Guerilla Realty, that real estate is the greatest business on earth. You might beg to differ, but we really sincerely believe that real estate's the greatest business on earth. And, I can make an argument for it. So like uncapped earning potential, you literally make anything you want, right? You're building an incredible talent stack, right? So you're learning like sales and marketing and negotiations and contract and law and finance. And you're learning it. Like, I think that a realtor who did really well in real estate for 10 years could go work in any industry in the world and succeed, just because maybe not a brain surgeon, right? But they could go work in a ton of different industries because of the talents that they build. And you're literally making people's dreams come true every day, right? Helping them find their dream home. So greatest business on earth. However, every realtor is going to discover about the first 5 minutes into getting the real estate license, right? that getting consistent clients, I always say consistent clients, and now it sounds stupid, not people who are consistent, getting clients consistently
Mm-hmm.
is one of the hardest things that you'll ever do. It's really freaking hard. And we kind of like, raise our hand and we realized my brother and I are both in real estate. We were in real estate before we started Guerilla Realty. And we're like, it's like the hardest thing in the world to get consistent clients. A lot of people get into real estate and you might not care about this background, but they get into real estate and their first like 4 or 5 deals are just like their mom and their mom's brother and then their grandma and then like their nephew twice removed or whatever. And it feels a little easy. And you're like, man, I'm getting paid like $7,500 or $11,000 every time I do one of these deals.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you realize you can't manufacture any more friends or family, eager sneezers, I think you refer to them as, okay, you realize, well, dang, what am I going to do to get clients consistently, actually build a real career out of this? And we realize it's really freaking hard. And the problem is every realtor is completely and totally abandoned to build their own marketing from scratch, right? So they've got like their broker leaning on them. There's a zillion like TikTok and YouTube coaches that you could follow and try to do their thing, right? And none of it produces consistent results if it produces results at all. And everyone's left to kind of like Frankenstein their own marketing system, from scratch. And so our goal is, and what we've dedicated the last 10 years of our lives to, and what we want to dedicate the next 10 years of our lives to, is a complete marketing engine for realtors so they can just turn the key and line up consistent client after client after client after client and not worry about, okay, where's my next deal coming from, which is a big thing when you're working straight commission, right? Like, where's my next client coming from?
Yeah. That's good. I want to go deeper on that. You've hit some recent business milestones I want to learn about as we go. Before we get super in the weeds of the business, zoom out for a minute. Tell us about Chris. Where are you from? What's your family like? How'd you get into this? A quick little 60-second bio.
Yeah, so I am from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Probably most famous for being the home of Fort Bragg, which is like the largest military installation on the East Coast. It's actually just recently been renamed to Fort Liberty.
Did not know that.
Got canceled. Yeah, so Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty. And I got here because my dad was a member of the 82nd Airborne for about 5 minutes. That's how he ended up here. But he's also a serial entrepreneur. That's probably where we got our entrepreneurial spirit from. But he actually got into real estate in 2002 and had a hard time of it first, but then kind of figured out some things. And I got to watch that whole journey. And that was kind of like the first time that I realized that getting consistent clients in real estate is really hard. And if you could solve that problem for people, it's a pretty valuable thing. So I'm 38 years old now. I dropped out of college to join my dad in real estate back in 2003, 2004, sometime in that. It was a wild ride, like, on the way up. And then 2008, the mortgage crisis and the real estate meltdown happened, and things were pretty thin for a while. But just all the while kind of had this germ of an idea of like, helping realtors solve their marketing problem. Right. And I kind of officially founded Guerilla Realty and our flagship product, Pro Tools, in 2018 with my brother, who's part owner of the company. And yeah, that's me. That's how we got here.
Now you're 5 years in now. 2018 you started, 2023. I think I did my math right there. 5-6 years. Recently you had a big milestone. You hit 7 figures in your business, which is a really big deal. Tell me how that felt.
I actually missed it. So we did for the year 2022, we did like 1.1 something million in total revenue. I think I sent you a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
But we actually crossed 7 figures in that calendar year, like sometime in November. Yeah. And I had been intending like, okay, let's see when we cross it or whatever. Then I forgot to do it. So I actually missed hitting the 7 figures, but it felt really amazing. It was a little anticlimactic because we did like 900 and change the year before. So we'd already been kind of like, gunning for it. Like, oh, we're right here. We're going to do it. And then we missed it the year before. And then we end up hitting it in 2022. But yeah, no, it felt it felt really good. It's one of those like cheesy milestones that doesn't necessarily change your life or anything. Doing 950K versus 1.1 million.
Yeah.
But no, it felt really good. It's one of those things that makes you feel like, oh, okay, I have like a real thing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just like when the first time you hit like 100K, just one of those multiples of tens that makes you feel like, oh,
Yeah.
I've got a real thing going here, right?
Hey, I will say it's not a cheesy milestone. Like it's a really big deal. Like I get what you're saying. Like the gradual like iteration from 900 to 1.1 is, it boil the frog slowly kind of thing. But that's a
Yeah.
really big deal. Not many people ever get there. So just kudos to you. Pat yourself on the back. I know y'all have celebrated that, but
Mm-hmm.
good job, man. Like very few people will just keep doing the same thing for 5 or 6 years, much less do what's needed to slowly get to over $1 million a year in sales. So good work, man. I'm
I
really proud of
appreciate
you.
it.
We've kept in touch over the years as you've gone through the different phases of things. And we've had this conversation several times. And we were in our pre-interview and we were talking, even when we were talking via email, I was asking, and Will, who helps us kind of set these up, was asking like, all right, what new interesting things or marketing strategy have you been using that helped? And you said, but actually it's really boring. We've not really done anything new at all. We just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again because it works. So give us a quick overview of what's working for you currently that you've been just repeating over and over again.
Yeah. So after working with GU back in 2019, I think that was kind of like a big breakthrough year for us. We just basically took your partner webinar playbook and we've just been executing it over and over and over and over again. So I don't know if you want me to go into the details of like what we do, but
yeah. Well,
we
maybe
teach
share
really.
this.
Yeah,
Go ahead. You keep going. You teach what?
Okay, yeah. So we teach really freaking awesome webinars. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these are great webinars, whether you join Pro Tools or not, whether you pay us any money or not. We teach, one awesome idea that they can absorb in 45 minutes, go out and execute in under 2 hours. And then we guarantee a result within 24 hours. If you execute the idea, like you're going to get some kind of result from it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I try to make like 2 new webinars. So it's not like a super fast paced thing. I try to make like 2 new webinars, 2 new marketing ideas every year. So we're up to like, I think we've got like 10 or 11 different webinars. They perform at different levels. And then at the end of the webinar, we invite people to book a demo for Pro Tools. And then we have a sales team that they get to meet with and then we get sales from it. So obviously the big challenge was, hey, the webinar is working for us, which actually your team helped me figure out. So the 90-day review process, you gave it to me and I just like went away by myself and went through the process, asked all the questions. And what I figured out was the thing that had the biggest impact wasn't like all the stupid crap I was working on YouTube, Facebook, what I don't even remember what stupid, building a new website, redesigning the new website, tweaking the website, whatever, all the things that all of us entrepreneurs do. So I realized, man, the thing that I'd done that had the single biggest impact, like bang for my buck in terms of hours spent and what kind of revenue it created, was actually just this random webinar that I'd done because I heard someone say one time that you should really do a webinar, right? It was just a random one-off webinar that I never repeated, never intended to repeat. But when I looked at it, I was like, oh, that actually generated X number of sales. It wasn't super impressive, but like for the time that I spent, that was the single most impactful thing that I'd done in the last 90 days. Right. So I was like, okay, well, let me do more of this. And so at the time I was like, well, what if I did this once a month? Right. Well, our email list at the time, I think we'd grown it to like 7,000 or 8,000. And so it was like, these people are going to get worn out because I only had one webinar idea. Right.
Yeah.
So like after a few months, they've pretty much all seen it. Right. So then you gave us the idea of like, okay, well, what if you just taught this to a new audience every month? Right. And so I also ended up going through at the same time. I read the book Traction by Gino Wickman. Which I just basically went through that vision traction organizer, just followed all the steps. I like checklists. I think that's why I love what you guys do. So I just did the checklist. I also read a great book. I don't know the author, but it's called Built to Sell.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically like the premise is the best way to grow a business is if you were going to sell it, even though we have no intention of selling, and most people don't. The best way to grow it is as if you were going to sell it, right? Is to is to build a business that's sellable. And so I went through both those things, and they kind of all informed, but all work towards, okay, look, let's figure out how many new audiences I need to get every quarter in order to teach this webinar to. Let's break down how many sales leads does at the time I had one sales guy who was barely making it, like barely paying his own bills, right? How many leads does he need to get? How many calendar bookings does he need to get in order to basically reverse engineer our goals?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember our first lead number was 21. I needed to book 21 Calendly bookings for the sales rep every single week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I backed in and figured, okay, I need to get 8 new partner webinars every quarter, right? There's 13 weeks. If I could get 8 partner webinars, I know I could hit our goal, and just kind of backed into that. And so ever since then, like my main job, besides being CEO and, meeting with everyone to make sure everyone's on track and doing what they're supposed to be doing, my main job is emailing, like cold pitch to people on my Dream 100. I know you've changed it to a Dream 50. I feel like the kids today will never understand how hard it was to get a Dream 100, right? And we had to walk up a hill both ways in the freezing cold, and we had to get a Dream 100. That was really tough, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but I still have that original spreadsheet, and I just add to it. So I get a Facebook ad from someone who's kind of like in the same lane as us. I'll just add them to the Dream 100, right? And so, like, slowly over time, like the level of partners that we've booked. So our email list has grown from 8,000 to we just crossed the 50,000
Good job.
email subscriber milestone. And, we went from, like, if I could get someone who owned like a rinky dinky Facebook group of realtors, of like 10,000 realtors, and I could do a webinar for them, great. Just last week, I met with the real estate wing of, I don't know if I should share this, but a really big coaching business. I met with their real estate wing, someone that's based in Franklin, Tennessee. You could probably figure out who it is. A big financial coaching business, and they sell a product to realtors. And I actually got to meet with them, and we're maybe going to do a webinar swap.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So just like the caliber of, who we're, as we work up, and we still work with some of our original partners that maybe have like a small list or, whatever, but they've just really paid off, over time. And then once I've got a relationship with them, I try to make it evergreen so that we're doing either a webinar a month or we're doing a webinar a quarter. And I just try to make sure that every single week I'm booked for some kind of webinar that I'm teaching to not only my own audience. I continue to email them to every webinar that we ever do because our list continues to grow, but also we promote it to that new audience. And then we teach a live webinar. I haven't been smart enough to do the canned pre-recorded thing with the Facebook ads and all that stuff. I literally just do live webinars with live email promos, and that's what we do. And we've just been doing it consistently for around 4 years now since you guys laid that on us.
Well, how many sales guys now?
We're up to 3 sales reps, and I'm just about to hire a 4th.
Awesome. So, how many bookings a month?
So I don't do it monthly, but basically our target is like 85 to 90 a week.
Okay, cool.
So and what would go up obviously with say again?
What's the source split in those?
Like where do the leads come from?
Yeah.
So I would say that every webinar probably books 60 to 75. And then like the replay goes out and stragglers come through, and then another 15 to but 100% of them come from live webinars at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is, I think, a marketing trope at this point, but is still the wisest marketing thing I know of, which is find one thing and do more of it. And you have done that exceptionally well. Like, I'm a squirrel chaser. If something's a shiny object, like, I'm interested in it, my mind goes there. But to ruthlessly execute on one strategy for 4 years straight is really remarkable. Like, good job for doing that.
No, I appreciate it.
I'm curious, numbers wise, for your webinars, what do you typically want to see from registrants to sales calls booked? Is there a percentage you typically go for?
Yeah. To be honest, it's not something I pay super close attention to. That may sound odd because I am like a big numbers guy, but we use your one-click tool still to this day. I know it really hasn't been changed at all, but we still use it.
Yeah.
And we even use it with there's a few partners we work with that like their email provider's not listed, but we'll go and figure out what their code is. So we use it for everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
And It just does clicks, not uniques. And I could go and I could create a spreadsheet and figure out unique registrants or whatever.
Yeah.
But the truth is I found that it's like, so here's what we do. We do the one click thing, but the success landing page, we make it, it's a lead pages. That's a lot like your remind tool, right? So it's a lead pages landing page that says, hey, you're registered, but if you'd like to get a SMS reminder, just enter your phone number here. Mm-hmm. And then we have that go into Call Hub, and we send out a 15-minute reminder. So got a lot of people joining from their mobile device these days, and then we also have a 15-minute reminder that goes out by email. So registrants to attendees, I really have no clue, but I do know that we have about a 67% registration rate from registrant to SMS reminder. And typically we're seeing, I mean, depending on the topic we're teaching, some are sexier ideas than others, right? So depending on the topic, we might have somewhere between 200 SMS reminders, which that would mean about 300 total registrants, all the way up to about 400 SMS reminders, which if you divide by 0.67, that's like 550 roughly. Okay. Yeah. So we have somewhere between 300 and 550 registrants on any given webinar. And then average attendees are 150 to 350. So I can't do the math in my head, but that's what we're typically looking at. The number that I like to look at is, unfortunately, we can only book 90 leads a week. I don't even let people, I'm sure you don't let people book on your calendar like 3 months from today. So we only go 6 days out. Okay. Yeah. So they can book 6 days out. So once it's full, it's full. So a lot of times when I'm teaching a webinar to 350 people, I already know that like I'm pissing away a lot of potential leads. Right. Yeah. So, generally if we're teaching like 150 to 180, that's like the sweet spot where we're going to just barely hit the number. There might be 1 or 2 open bookings that then get snagged later. Right.
Which is pretty remarkable. That's nearly half of that's 40% of your attendees are booking sales calls off the back end.
It's probably closer to a third. It's probably closer to 33%. So I don't know. So if we've got 180 people, probably 60 of them will book immediately. Some of them will book a little bit later. But that would be on the low side. When we have, anyway, it's basically a third. I know that the numbers sound like they don't add up, but it's generally the rule that we use, and we track it pretty closely. It's about a third of people who attend the webinar will actually book a demo at the end.
That's great. And what are your conversions through that? So you get 60 people, 80 to 90 right now total booking per
18% week. Of people who book a calendar, like a demo spot, who book, 18% of them will close. We have like a 65% answer rate, and then like a 30% close rate from conversations. So if you multiply those two numbers together, it's like 19% of people who book a slot will actually close.
Those are really good numbers. What are your goals for the business?
I mean, right now, if you go back to that vision traction organizer that I did like almost 4 years ago, basically, I think that we're coming up on, we were just a little short of the revenue goal for the 3-year thing. But we were a little farther ahead on the number of clients. It's just the churn was a little higher than we expected. So that was like a good news, bad news thing. But yeah, basically we're trying to hit the $5 million revenue mark, which is still ways off. But yeah, immediate goals right now is to continue booking, bigger, partner webinars. I'd like to start dabbling with some kind of paid advertising. I just don't really know where to start. I've spent so much time being an expert at just like the one thing that Facebook ads kind of scare me. Google ads, YouTube ads, that kind of thing. They're scary.
What's the biggest barrier between 1.1 and 5 in your mind?
So this is probably going to sound really philosophical, but I think that getting our client success rates up is the biggest thing. So one of the things that on the fulfillment side, on the product side, which is basically run by my brother, is that we had a real conversation with each other about a year and a half ago. We were like, hey, what are our success rates? What do you think it was actually spurred on by, I think it was a podcast or something that you published. I said, hey, what do you think our success rates are? And he was like, I mean, honestly, probably not good,
Hmm.
right? Which can feel, like a pretty damning indictment, But I think so. We looked at it and we were honest. We were like, most software companies, like, they're happy if 20% of people use it, like log in and even use it one
Yeah.
time,
The
let alone
bar is
have any kind
low.
of success with it, right?
The bar is so low. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the gym membership model. Like, we actually hope that
Hmm.
most people don't show up because we don't have enough space to serve all of our members, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how a lot of software businesses are run. And so we were like, well, are you happy with that? Like, are
Hmm.
you good with 80% of people who pay us completely pissing away their money?
Hmm.
Like, just a total waste. And we both had to admit that no, we're not really happy with that. But like, what do you do about it when this is like the state of things? And so we got really obsessive about success rates. So first of all, you have to define what is a success.
Yeah.
So we designed a track that's basically like 3 big wins, right? So
Hmm.
big win number 1 is we want to help a realtor generate their first lead, which sounds like a small win, but the
Hmm.
truth is, like, it's more of a mindset thing.
Hmm.
When you help a realtor who has been sitting around waiting for family and friend referrals, when you help them go out and do an activity
Hmm.
and then it results in a lead, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, like, I'm in control of my own business. It's a huge mindset thing. So that's big
Yeah.
one number 1. Big one number 2 is having success on the phone. So we call it a bribe call, where we basically call a prospective lead. He's thinking about buying a home soon. We offer them an irresistible bribe and they say yes to it.
Hmm.
And we've tracked this pretty closely. Like, if you do that 8 times, like, you're going to get a client under contract, like, every single time. They're just going to fall into your lap.
Wow.
And so we've decided that has a high correlation to success. So that's big win number 2. And then big win number 3 is actually just tracking. They've got a client under contract, and the average commission in North America is like $11,000 for real
Hmm.
estate.
Yeah.
And so, like, we know that that's a huge ROI. We charge $2,000 a year for our thing. So if we help
Hmm.
somebody do that even one time, they've already 5x'd their investment.
Yeah.
And so those are the 3 big wins. And so we got really obsessive about, okay, well, what percentage of people are going to go through all 3 of them? And just as a beginning goal, we started with the 80-60-40 split. We want 80% of people to generate a lead in the first 30 days using Pro
Hmm.
Tools. It's harder than you think. Like, it sounds like, oh, if your system works, then it'll be easy. No,
Yeah.
getting someone to get started is hard. Do you know that we bribe people with Starbucks gift cards to get them to show up to a one-on-one appointment where we literally hold their hand and like walk them through
Wow.
the steps to like
Yeah.
to do the first playbook, right?
Hmm.
And which it works, by the way. If you ever have a hard time getting people to show up, right,
Uh-huh.
just bribe them with a $5 Starbucks gift card. It's worth it. Or Dunkin', depending on
Basic.
where they are in the country. Some people like Dunkin', right?
Yeah.
So no, we really do it. So got really obsessive about it, and now we're like you said, use the word ruthlessly. Like, we're ruthlessly, optimizing for
Hmm.
getting people through those successes. And I think that we're finally getting to the point where we finally can track Big Win 3. We've hit the splits on Big Win 1 and 2, and we're just beginning to know how to even, tracking successes is hard. I know that you've experienced that
Hmm.
before. So
Yeah.
tracking that, getting someone to, here's a problem with coaching business. Nobody wants to give you credit for their win, right? So how do you track the successes? They did all the work, right? So, which I want them to take credit for it. So we're finally getting to the point where we can track that big win.
Hmm.
And I think that when we hit 40%, or 40% of people who pay us money will have a client under contract inside of 30 days, then it will be impossible to keep their mouth shut about it.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, even just in the last year, we never had this before, but even the last year, like, twice a month, somebody comes to us and they're like, hey, my friend told me that this is like the greatest thing.
Yeah.
Can I book a demo with somebody and sign up?
Yeah.
And that's never happened for us before, but it's happened like once or twice a month for the entire last year. I think if we get to that 40% split, that'll start happening a lot.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of stuff changes when people can't keep their mouth shut about you. So
That's a really big deal, man. Just kudos for one, an extremely simple marketing system, and 2, actually giving a crap about product, so much so that you optimize it, make hard decisions, and solve the hard problems. Because everything you've mentioned of tracking success, if your program works, it should work. It's like, well, it's rarely about the execute. It's rarely about, does the thing I execute work or not? That usually actually works. It's about getting someone who isn't, the mindset issues that block that, and the behavioral things that block
all
that.
the friction.
Require those. Yeah. Yeah. So kudos, man. Thanks so much for sharing. I want to start a meetup where people who actually care about product in the coaching space come and talk about like actual product stuff like you have in the last 15-20 minutes, because
Yep.
I can talk about this stuff for days and learn from other people that are they're interested not just in selling stuff but also providing a great experience that people get results. I've written down a few notes in my own notebook here. I love the 3 big wins in 30 days. I didn't realize until the end you wanted them to get a deal under contract in 30 days. And that's the last big one.
Yeah, so technically not a deal because that's something that can
Okay.
take a long time. So the average home search lasts about 70 days. So that's a lagging indicator. It's really hard to track. So we want them to get a client under contract, which would mean either like a signed listing agreement, like, hey, I want you to sell my house, put a sign in the yard, sell my house, or an exclusive buyer's agency agreement where we've put in an offer on a home. So you've signed an agreement. You're going to use me as your realtor. So getting a client under contract.
Yeah.
The real estate contract we know will come later once they've gotten the client, just to clarify that.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, we should talk offline too. There's several interesting real estate things that have crossed my radar in the coaching world recently that I think would be of interest. So let's connect offline.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate you sharing everything. We're at time, so we're going to close out. Where can people learn more about you?
GuerrillaRealty.com.
Perfect. Go sign up. Go watch a webinar. We'll follow up, get some assets from you. I'd love to watch a webinar or two of yours and see. Your numbers are exceptional.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk shop.